Welcome to Backyard Cigars. And what I've got here today is The King is Dead by AJ Fernandez for Caldwell Cigars. Super Corona size, otherwise known as Churchill. Measures in at 7 by 46. This sports a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and Nicaraguan filler to make it a Nicaraguan puro. Completely from Nicaragua. This is a reimagining of Caldwell's original release of The King is Dead. Now, every now and then, we come across new companies or people that have been doing it for only a short amount of time that seem to take the cigar industry by storm. Seem to put out some really good cigars, and they seem to come out of nowhere. 2014 is the year that Caldwell really set forth and put out some really good cigars. And The King is Dead, of course, is one of the cigars that propelled the brand. Now, the owner, Robert Caldwell, is an interesting character, to say the least. He looks like similar to a European fashion model, and he has quite a presence. But to me, what strikes me the most is his love of the smoke and how much heart he puts into making sure that we, the consumer, get something that we love. Now, there are certain things that I'm expecting from this cigar. The original was a Dominican puro using very rare and seldomly used tobaccos. This baby is AJ Fernandez style Nicaraguan puro, and I think it's a great collaboration between the two men in putting something out like this, and it's just something that I'm hoping will be a good experience, or will translate to a good experience for me during this session here. The ash just dropped, and as you can see, very clean burn line as it dropped. No irregularities there. At a 46 ring gauge, it almost feels like a giant Lancero, but it's definitely the Churchill size, and this is advertised as a full-bodied cigar, full-flavored, full-bodied, full strength. So I'm expecting to get an abundance of flavors. I'm getting some spice up front, baking spices, some dots of black pepper, and a little sweetness that has popped up in the first inch. Now, today is 40 degrees. I've done a little test, and when I'm near the fire pit, at full fire, I'm at 15-20 degrees warmer near the fire pit. Smaller fire, I will probably only be about 8, maybe 10 degrees warmer. So I think that's pretty good. And not only keeps me warm, but it keeps me from having any unwanted wrapper issues, or at least just helps. I'm going to take a little bit of time with this cigar. I'm going to come back, just start detailing some of the things I pick up on it, and share that with you. I've been smoking this, and I've been getting a lot of the same from that first inch. The baking spices, traces of pepper, tad bit of sweetness, and I've been liking it. I like the flavor. The draw is good. It's got a good body to it. Good smoke output, as I always say. So far, I'm not getting too much of the aroma. Could be the weather. And Robert Caldwell, he's... I mean, his story speaks for itself. I'll gladly do a video that will focus more on his journey. But since this is a cigar that he collaborated with, it's his brand, but he collaborated with AJ Fernandez, I'm going to save that for another time when it's a different cigar. But why he chose, or why he chooses the names that he's chosen for his cigars, whether it's Savage or whether it's Broken Sword or The King is Dead. You know, the King is Dead was a phrase that was pronounced by the French monarchy. When the king would die, whether it be of sickness or old age, there would be an announcement: "The king is dead. Long live the king." And that signaled that despite the fact that the current king had passed away, there was a king in place now, a successor, someone that would ascend to the throne and take the title of king. It could be his son, or it was usually his son. Some family member would take the throne. And so the king is dead, long live the king. And Robert actually has a cigar, which I have in my humidor, by the name of Long Live the King. And it's actually meant to be smoked after this cigar. So why he chooses these names, I don't know. I searched and searched to find out what kind of creative process he goes through to find out, or to determine why he chooses the names that he does choose. But nonetheless, very interesting. And whew, it's full of some nice spice flavor, really. Just keeps building and building, and now I'm getting a little bit of more of the sweetness, and the aroma's picking up. Just very consistent right now. I mean, if you can look at that burn line, excellent construction. It's got that nice slender look to it, and feels pretty good in the hand. I mean, I will occasionally say that when I really mean it, and in this case, I kind of really enjoy the way it's got that regal look to it. A little sweeter. Some creaminess was introduced right now that is just gliding across my palate, and for just a moment it seemed that the baking spices just kind of took a break and let this transition just a little differently right now. So I like that. I'm gonna smoke a little more and come back with some more thoughts. Okay, so during the break, which I took some time to smoke a bit more of this cigar, enjoy some of it. Some really good flavors coming out of this cigar. Some cinnamon, some pepper, some sweetness, just really good balance going on, some creaminess. And then I was just grappling with something, and I felt that, I'm not gonna pussyfoot. I'm not. I'm just not. That's just not what I'm about. It's not how I was raised. And I'm just gonna say what I have to say. I'm aware that today is Inauguration Day. I'm aware that I'm smoking a cigar by the name The King is Dead. And while the choice of cigar was random, what I'm about to say is not. Now, many of you don't know me personally. I would say the majority of you don't. You watch me, you hear me, you hear the little things I have to say about history in regards to cigars. But in reality, I am a big history buff. Not just the history of cigars, but just anything to do with history, particularly American history, which I love. I'm a proud American. And I just want to say, look, I was raised as a Republican. My parents were conservative Republicans for as long as I've known, and I dare say they're still Republicans. And so when it came time for me to register to vote, I was asked, well, you have to choose a party. What party are you going to choose? Well, I knew my parents were Republican. I wasn't political in the least bit. I just knew that I had to register to vote, which was important. I was 18 years old. And although I knew very little, if anything, about politics, even about how it worked in the slightest, I said, yeah, jot me down for Republican, because that's all I knew. My parents were Republicans, and that's what I knew. As I got a little older, a few years later, and I did some studying. I mean, you can read about wars and things like that, but the political aspect and backdrop to some of these wars and battles is a different story. If you're not reading more into that, then you're just going to be reading about the battle, who won, who lost. You're not going to be doing the research about what really went on. So when I finally did enough research and really studied on the history, I decided to myself, you know what? I'm just going to go independent. I'm going to be independent. And from this day forward, I'm just going to choose who I think is the best person for or the job, whatever it may be. And I'll make my choices based on that. I'm going to be independent. Not too far left, not too far right. Centrist. That was my goal. And in college, a lot of my professors, they went either way, and then I kind of clicked with those that had a centrist view, because on one end my parents were Republican, and then on the other end I had a lot of friends, and the majority of my friends were Democrats, and I loved them all. So I kind of just wanted to focus on being a centrist, and to this day I feel that I have succeeded. Without saying who I voted for or anything like that, the one thing that I have always been proud of as an American is our ability to complete the peaceful transfer of power, to every 4 years place an importance on that transfer of power occurring peacefully, because having had so many friends from Honduras, Africa, and Venezuela, and just a lot of friends that I've had from South America and Central America, and the stories that they've told me about the things that have occurred in their countries with elections, I always felt proud to say, well, that doesn't happen here. We don't have to worry about that. That's just... And yeah, we take it for granted. We really do. And before you start saying, Jose, you should shut up because cigars and politics, no, I thought the same thing. I much rather preferred that cigars and politics would stay out of each other's hair. But a quick couple of emails between myself and the owner of Corona Cigars, Jeff Borziak, convinced me that, and he kind of put me in my place, that yeah, cigars and politics have been hand in hand for quite a long time, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think I've even mentioned in the past about how in Europe certain diplomats would get together and they would smoke cigars and blow cigar smoke in each other's face, and they would try to make intellectual points and diplomatic points in order to sway each other, all the while smoking their cigars, puffing at each other's face, and trying to outdo each other. And that's just one aspect of how cigars has been a part of politics, and it's a small part. In other places, people can sit down at lounges and actually discuss politics and be completely from different parties and still be able to have a normal, polite conversation. There is something about America that makes it special, right? I mean, I can't be the only one that feels that way. And I think that everyone else who loves America can agree with me that the one thing that we have to ensure, the one thing that we have to continue to really appreciate is that peaceful transfer of power. Because if we don't have that, then we have what a lot of third world countries have, and that is chaos, anarchy. So the importance of the French monarchy, and I think it was back in the 16 or 1700s, early 16, 1700s, in proclaiming the king is dead, long live the king, was to assure the people that there was someone in place to take power, to prevent from any kind of chaos. And that doesn't mean that within the monarchy throughout the ages there wasn't chaos and there wasn't a dispute about who should or shouldn't be king. But in regards to the monarchy, they were following bloodlines in order to determine accession to the throne. In our society, we determine that by voting. And when there are any kind of irregularities, they have to be investigated. And they should be. But for the most part, I think that what we need to focus on most is remembering who we are. Remembering what made us great. What made America a special place. Now, I'm Puerto Rican, and I remember not that long ago when thousands and thousands of Puerto Ricans marched on Puerto Rico's capital and demanded for the governor to resign. And he didn't want to resign. And pressure and pressure and pressure and continued protests, peaceful protests, until finally the governor resigned. And we had a new governor appointed. And then an election followed. And they got to decide again who was best for the job, who they wanted to have in power. Because peaceful protest is just that, peaceful protest. Yeah, you might have some skirmishes here and there, some minor arrests for some people getting a little out of line. That happens. But imagine if the Puerto Rican people would have stormed the governor's mansion and trashed it and still demanded that he resign. Well, it would have been a different story. And I think he would have probably had a leg to stand on and say, no, not resigning, not like this. Whatever the case may be, whatever values, views, opinions you may have, you're entitled to them. And I think that we're all entitled to believe and feel what we want. But we also have to remember that as Americans, we have to be respectful. We have to truly be respectful. To truly love our country, to be a patriot. My allegiance, my patriotism is to my country and to my fellow American. It isn't to any president, ex or current. It isn't to any politician, whether he's pandering to me or not, whether he's promised me this or what. It's to my country, to my fellow man. That's really the core of a true patriot. Now, you can disagree with me, and that's just fine. But we can all agree that America's a beautiful place, a special place, and it has to be protected. It really does. And democracy is fragile. So, there, I said it, because I'm not going to pussyfoot around anything. And I'm not afraid to say what is on my mind. That doesn't change how I feel about anyone. I respect everyone. I have friends on the far right. I have friends on the far left. And I can agree to disagree with all of them. All the while still telling them, be safe, take care, love you. Till next time, see you. Hey, let's meet up and smoke a cigar, have a chat. That's how it's done. They call the cigar a Super Corona. And it just kind of reminds me in boxing how, the different divisions in weight class. He's a junior welterweight. Oh, no. That translates to a super lightweight. Call it what you want. Super lightweight, junior welterweight, Churchill size. And having that super lancero type feel to it, you get a lot of the flavor from the tobacco because of the wrapper to filler ratio. And I thought it was gonna be much more of an explosive cigar in terms of flavor, and it hasn't disappointed. But it isn't that powerful, typical AJ Fernandez powerhouse type of cigar. It's refined, like royalty. And these flavors, the creaminess, the spice rack, the pepper notes, the sweetness, everything is just working well. And the construction, excellent. I mean, my perimeter is 45, 47 degrees. And I still think that if this would have been a warmer day, man, this cigar's flavors would explode just a bit more. So I can only imagine just how much more flavor I'd get out of this cigar if it was a warmer temperature out here. Secondary band. There's a lot of cigar on this left. I believe there may be some more transitions. Just got that feeling. So I'm going to take a little time with it, smoke a little bit more down, and I'll get right back to you. Back in the 90s when I was hanging out with my friends, when something was really, really nice, they would say, man, that's just butter. This cigar is just butter. It's gotten creamy, sweet notes, spice in the background, really nice stick. Smooth, nice, easygoing draw. I mean, it's just butter. I wanted to add something else. Before I started talking about some of the comments I made, I remember my girlfriend told me before I did the video, she said, be careful what you say because people might take it the wrong way. You don't want to lose subscribers. You don't want people getting upset at you. And I said, well, but baby, you know, it's not about sides for me. I'm not, you know, I actually don't have a side. I'm an independent through and through. But I've always valued character. I mean, that's just me. I value character because I've been a person with a bad character. And I grew up in a neighborhood in Brownsville, Brooklyn, where, listen, sieges, they were commonplace. I mean, I remember being in school and teachers saying, lock the classroom doors. We've got people in the school and security is overwhelmed. And in order to stay safe, we have to lock the doors. Lock the doors and get underneath your desks. And stay quiet and turn off the lights. And that's what we would do until the threat would pass. And it happened quite often. And every now and then it would happen in the middle of the day where we were just rushing and running to run into a classroom to avoid a gang that had just, you know, just rush right through security, and they would target the computer room, they would target the supply rooms, they would assault teachers, and even try to break into the principal's office. And these type of things happened when I was growing up. And so I was used to the drill of turn off the light, lock the doors under your desks, because you don't know what could happen. And in one instance, we didn't get to lock the doors in time or turn off the lights. And they rushed into the classroom. And all of a sudden there were 4, 5, 6 guys in the classroom assaulting the females, swinging at whoever they perceived to be an alpha male. And if you weren't an alpha male, well, you were going to take a beating. And in this one occasion, the school was under attack, and my classroom was under attack, and kids came in, they grabbed my friends, they started slapping people around, girls got thrown to the ground, unspeakable things happened. And in one instance, one of them said to me, "Who the fuck are you, white boy? What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm a student of this class." He got up and he walked towards the chalkboard, and I saw that from a bag he was pulling something out, and it was a brick. And I saw this crazy look in his eyes that said, something's not right with this guy. Something's not right with this kid. And he threw that brick, and I ducked. And that brick shattered the window behind me. And at that moment, security luckily rushed in, and they took off, barreled right out. And I thought about what would have happened if I hadn't ducked in time. I looked around and I saw my classmates bloodied. And I looked at the chaos that surrounded me that was a part of my everyday life. And I didn't want that for my life. And growing up, I didn't want that either. As an adult, as much as I trained in boxing and martial arts, I did not want that to be a part of my life. I didn't want violence to be the number one thing in my life, even if I grew up with it. So I condemn violence unless it's absolutely necessary. And then when I say absolutely necessary, I mean when you're protecting your life or the life of your loved ones from someone that is trying to bring them harm. That is when you have to give in and use that to protect yourself. But whenever I can avoid a fight, I will. And I can be called a chicken, and I can be called anything you name. And I'm going to walk away. Because I know where it leads to. I know the path and the road that it leads to. And that's not for me. And that's not for America. That's all I got to say about that. But my final notes on this cigar, since you have patiently waited for them. I love this cigar. I love it because it's refined, because it's well balanced, because it smells great, because it started off with that spice rack and slight pepper notes, and then transitioned to creaminess and sweetness, all the while keeping that spice rack in the background, bringing it out and showcasing it from time to time, giving you the strength of the tobacco but not letting it overwhelm you. Really, really classy cigar. A cigar that has transitioned more than once. And I've said it before, cigar doesn't have to be complex. And it doesn't have to transition many times in order to be a great cigar. But when it does, and it does it right, man, it's amazing. Man, it's mind-blowing. And this is, to me, a must-try cigar. It's a cigar that you should try at least once. A cigar you should keep in your humidor. I kept it in the humidor only a week. 1 week. 65, 66 RH. And normally I like to keep a cigar for 2-3 weeks, sometimes a month, in the humidor before smoking it, but it just kept calling at me. And the more I read about it, the more it interested me, and I wanted to try it. I had read so much about it, and I said, you know, this is it. I'm smoking this today. And I'm not regretting it. Even in this weather, 40 degrees, real feel 35, 36, with my fire pit here crackling, 45 degrees. It's performed excellent. It has really just, wow. Sweet and creamy right now. And I'll include the nub notes in the comment section, in the description. But I just want to say to you all, I love you all. And thank you for watching Backyard Cigars. Please understand where I'm coming from. It is from a good place, not a bad place. I'm not condemning anyone specifically. Whoever's watching this, I don't know you, you don't personally know me, but one thing that I can tell you, I have a love of cigars. If you're watching this, it's because you love cigars. I love this country, and hopefully you do too. And anything else, we can work out. So thank you for watching Backyard Cigars. Until next time. King is dead. Long live the king.